This is going to be such a special episode. Just a quick introduction. Bilali does VFX. He's a VFX supervisor. He's been working on major television shows and like really cool movies in the industry.
Hi, I'm Mariusz Bargielski,
And I'm Tamara Jones.
and today we have very special guest actually.
Today we have a very special friend of mine, Bilali Mack. Thank you so much for coming on today. This is going to be such a special episode. Just a quick introduction. Bilali does VFX. He's a VFX supervisor. He's been working on major television shows and like really cool movies in the industry for the last, however many so years, and he's
Yeah.
like really just killing it in the game. So Bilali, the floor is yours if you want to just introduce yourself, like what you
Bilali, welcome.
do, what it
Yes.
entails.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Thank you guys. That was that I mean, I don't see myself as like somebody super special or anything, but like I think I appreciate the introduction. But yeah, I work in visual effects. I'm a visual effects supervisor. I've been working in visual effects now for I guess getting paid for over a decade, you know. But before that, I went to school for computer animation. And before that, in high school, I was part of like an arts, theater, and filmmaking program. So I've been always in like the arts, filmmaking, and storytelling kind of like space. But it moved into computer animation because I always wanted to do computer animation and visual effects. Like my first dream was I thought I was going to be like a Pixar animator. So I watched a lot of like Disney and Pixar films, and that was like my thing. I was like, I'm going to be a Pixar animator. I'm going to animate Pixar films. That didn't end up happening, or maybe for the better. Um, but I was, I guess, a little bit about my like personal background. I was born in Ghana, born in West Africa. Me and my family moved to the States when I was like about 8, 9 years old. We moved to Connecticut. And then my mom was a teacher. She's really into art. My parents split up, and me and my brothers ended up moving to Connecticut. We lived there for all of our adolescence. And then from high school into college, I went to Boston for animation and like filmmaking. And I did that at Emerson College. And I played basketball and did arts, and I was an RA. I did a bunch of stuff there. I finished school and I started working in commercials. I worked in advertising for like 6 years. Started out at this place called Brickyard VFX in Boston, where I interned, and then after that moved to New York and started working at this company called Smoke and Mirrors. And that's how I learned about visual effects. Initially, I thought I was going to do computer animation, which if people don't know, the difference between like doing computer animation and doing visual effects in general is computer animation generally is like animation and work that is fully generated in the computer, and visual effects also has components of work that is generated in the computer. But generally, when people speak about visual effects within our industries, they're talking about people that shoot live action footage and then combine that with like computer generated imagery, right? So it's like you've got computer animation stuff and you combine that with live action footage that's shot. And so that's generally what people mean when they say visual effects. But yeah, so I did that. I did commercials for like 6 years. I got tired of it. And I was just like tired of selling stuff to people that didn't want it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to see if I can get back into filmmaking, storytelling. And I started at this out company called Alchemy X. And my first show was Power. I started working as a visual effects supervisor for this one of the spin-offs for Power, Raising Canaan and Ghost. Those were the two first ones I jumped on. And after that, did that for 3 years, finished up on that and got an opportunity to move to another company called Powerhouse, which is where I work now. And while I'm there, I worked on one of the spinoffs for Power Force, which is like one of the many spinoffs that they have. So I continue to work in that universe as a visual effects supervisor. And then I've worked on, a couple other episodic shows. I'm on it currently. The big project that I'm visual effects supervising is called The Terror, season 3. It's an AMC show. The first and second season shot and aired years ago. It did really well, but it's an anthology series, so they're always looking for content. They couldn't find anything that would work within the genre, and they finally found a new like story or a new book that they turned into this series. And I'm supervising that right now, and that's being shot, and we're planning out the visual effects, and that's really great, and it's super exciting. And it feels like I've been doing it for a long time, but also feels like it was just yesterday I started doing it.
That's amazing.
But
well, time does fly when you are having fun.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's really great.
Yeah.
So, man, do you have anything like, you said that you've done a lot. You had a lot that you just laid out there where
I know
you were into sports. No. All great things, all very informative things. But so you were in sports. I mean, you thought you were going to go into like Pixar. So what really influenced you and made you know that VFX was the way?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because the truth is like it kind of evolved. I don't think I had like one moment where I was like, I'm gonna do visual effects. It's like I think, which is also a thing that I feel like people should think about when they're thinking about their career trajectories. I think everybody gets to a place differently, but initially for me, I like kind of just discovered many things that I liked along the way, along my career. Like the first inciting incident was that like I really liked watching movies when I was really young. And I think a lot of people that get into entertainment, filmmaking and like want to be creators, they end up liking the thing first, right? It's like you either like watch a bunch of movies, like I really love watching movies, or I really love painting or drawing. I like, or sketching or doodling, or I really like, singing or listening to music. Like if you're in the art space, one of these things captures you and you're like, I want to see if there's a way I can do more of this. And so for me, it was like, I really like watching movies. And I realized I really like watching Disney animated films, And so I was like, in my mind, I was like, I want to work on movies, or I want to figure out a way to work on Disney animated films. So that ended up turning into me going to art school in high school, and that like love for filmmaking, but also that love for animation brought me to that arts high school. I finished up in the arts high school and I went to Emerson College as I wanted to go as a filmmaker, but my major was switched by accident, and I was so lazy that they switched it to computer animation. This is the truth. They switched it to computer animation. And I was so lazy that the first and second semester, they were like, you just have to do it before your junior semester because you're just doing prerequisites. I was so lazy, I didn't change it up until the last minute. And by the time I got to junior semester, I had just really liked doing computer animation. I was like, am I going to switch now? I was like, I don't think I'm going to switch, because I was talking to the film department kids and they were having to lug around a bunch of equipment and stuff. And I just had my laptop. I was finishing I'm just finishing all my films on my laptop. They're like trying to find actors and they're trying to find this. I'm like animating and just doing voiceovers in my room. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good. My film's done. And so I was just like, man, and then I just started falling in love with it, just watching animated films. Like we were watching a lot of animated shorts in our courses, and I really liked computers. So I was getting into the computer aspect of it. And that's what I was saying. It was kind of accidental, like that part was accidental. I kind of just fell in love with it by accident and by way of being a little lazy. And then I started working at it just because of, I wanted to be good at it. I'm competitive. I played basketball and stuff. I wanted to be good at it. I got better at it. I pushed myself. And then after I finished school, I was like, I'm gonna try to see if I could get a job doing this. And so I got an internship in Boston at Brickyard VFX. Love those guys. I've gone back to visit them a bunch of times. I almost went back to Boston and worked for them because I really like them that much. But yeah, I interned there and I learned so much about visual effects. And I was in commercials at that point, so I was working with clients. But there was a guy, Anders, who worked on the original Shrek, and he also worked on the original Prince of Egypt. He was an animator there, and he was my mentor. He was my first computer animated mentor, and I learned so much. And the fact that he talked about working on Shrek and Prince of Egypt, like just as computer animation was getting going, I never forgot that. Even though I was like, okay, I'm going to work in commercials. I never forgot that he was like, I was able to do computer animation for films. And he talked about working on Shrek and this stuff. And I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I got to do that. Fuck these commercials. I got to get on that. So we worked on commercials, and we did I did commercials for 6 years, only because, I fell into it because it was the first thing I could get a job doing. And the pay was good when I first graduated. I graduated 2013. Commercials were still really lucrative. People were making a lot of money making commercials. I got a job in New York. I moved to New York, and I learned how to do. That's where I started learning the craft of it. The passion for filmmaking and animation brought me into school to do it, and then I jumped to the craft of it in New York because those guys were really good at the company, and they were like master visual effects technicians, and I just learned so much watching them. And at night when they would finish, I'd go on their computers and go into their setups and try to figure out how they did stuff so I could learn and teach myself. And then the next day they'd come and I'd be like, yo, I could do this too. And I started doing it, and they'd be like, okay, yeah, he can help out. And so that's how I was able to move up, and I got a job working as an artist. I became an artist at that first company. And then I finished there. I went to another company called MPC, which was really great, even more talented, high-end visual effects company. And then I had enough of commercials after 6 years. And that's how I moved. I remembered, Anders, and working on Shrek and working on the Prince of Egypt. And I was like, okay, now I know how to do it really well. I want to go back to do that for film and TV. Like, I want to tell stories again. So I was done with commercials, and I looked for any job I could find doing film and TV. And I applied as a visual effects supervisor because I've been supervising commercials. I didn't know if I would get it. I didn't think anybody would hire me for it. And luckily the guys at Alchemy, they saw something and they hired me. And my first major show, VFX supervising, was Raising Canaan and Ghost. I started both of them basically at the same time, supervising on the episodic side. Luckily I went to school and I did do some shooting and filmmaking, so I understood how filmmaking worked, but not on set, like higher end production level. So getting that experience with those two shows, that was like my on-set upbringing and training, and like I learned a lot on those shows, and I'm super grateful for that. And I became really, really good. Those productions were really fast. I was constantly asking questions of people, different departments, and learning how stuff worked and planning out VFX with the cinematographer, et cetera. And then from there, I just moved into like my new company, where it was the first time after I'd done that for so long, a show came and they were asking for me, and they were like, hey, Forrest is one of the spinoffs. We want to work with you because you work with these guys. You did a good job there. And then I applied for another job, which was The Terror, which is the first kind of like horror genre thing that I'm currently working on right now. And that's been great. It's been awesome. I've never done horror stuff really. And so it's really cool and fun to come up with like ways to do like scary effects, like we've got people melting skin and like some creature stuff and like, extended like spooky hallway stuff, and that's been really fun. And yeah, that's that. So long and short of it is, there wasn't one exact moment, but the passion for filmmaking combined with working alongside people that were really good and me just wanting to push myself to be really good, Anders at a Brickyard, seeing that he had worked on Prince of Egypt, inspired me to want to become good and later on, I remembered that when I was working in commercials and I was like, now I want to get back into filmmaking and I want to be, a visual effects supervisor. Yeah.
But
Nice.
from perspective, right? From your experience
Yeah.
life, if
Yeah.
and by coincidence you chosen the different majors, so you would do same thing if you have
Oh,
to go again.
yeah. That's an interesting question. If I was going to do it all over again,
Yeah,
knowing what I know now,
yeah.
damn. I mean, I don't really know. The problem is knowing what I know now, it's really hard. Like, I don't know if I would have decided to go the full. I definitely would be still probably interested in working in visual effects, but I don't know if I would go full, like working on studio and episodic stuff as a VFX supervisor. I like what I do now because I've been in it and I'm used to it,
Mhm.
but it's tiring and it's a lot of work. I mean, even just to get to this thing, I didn't know I could have been working today until 9, and that happens a lot. And especially with the on-set stuff while I'm shooting, T, like on set, I could be on set till like 1 a.m., I could start at like I don't know, like 10 a.m., be there till 1 a.m., depending on what they're shooting. And then for me, I think what a lot of people don't understand is like when I'm visual effects supervising, we're also doing the post-production side. So like once I finish covering on set, making sure they shoot everything right, I still got to go back and finish it. Like I got to do the visual effects. So there's days where I'll work from it's an early call. I'll work from like 7 a.m. till I don't know, 6, 7, and then I get home at 7. And then after that, I'm working from 7 to like, I don't know, like midnight, 1 a.m. So there are days that that's happened. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Mhm.
But there's days where that happens, not all the time, but it's whenever I'm on set, those days end up being almost like double shifts. Uh,
Mhm.
so there's times where, I'm exhausted. I don't see my friends. I don't really see people. And then it's like the weekends, you're like, okay, I want to get in, seeing all my friends, blah, 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 and you do too much. And then all of a sudden Monday comes and you're like, oh, I'm so tired. Why did I do all that? And then you got to do it all over again. But right now, the way I'm used to it, if I didn't know that, I don't know if I would choose it
Mhm.
100%. I would definitely still want to be in the space and do visual effects, but I don't know if I would want to be a visual effects supervisor. That's the truth. I
But
might
Mhm.
decide just to be a really high-end artist because then I don't have to do the on-set stuff. But I do love it. I love it now that I'm in it.
that's what
I
it
know.
is,
I just
right?
don't.
The ones you fall
Yeah,
in
I don't
love,
know.
that's it. But I have then
Yeah.
following question though. We cover with Tamara pandemic strikes, obviously. So
Mhm.
how was for you the past, let's say, 3, 4 years? They were
Oh
strike
man.
probably for the industry, right? With the pandemic first.
Yeah. I mean, specifically for the visual effects industry, it has been horrible. I think overall, like in the filmmaking industry, for every discipline, I think, actors, like cinematographers, like grips, like costumes, every department has been affected by this. But, for the visual effects industry in particular, it's been really, really bad. Only because, one of the big things is like, visual effects industry, there is no union.
Mm.
Like we don't have agents, there's no union, we don't have any real protections. It's like we usually will just work for a company, especially in the film and TV industry. We work for a company, and the company, generally, usually a lot of visual effects companies are like 50% contract workers, and the other 50% or less are staff. The main, like I'm staff because I'm a supervisor, but there's like 5 VFX supervisors at my company, and at any time there's between like 40 and 100 artists, and like out of those 40, 100 artists, maybe 60, 70% of them are freelance or contract. And when the strikes hit and stuff weren't going right, first people that get cut are the contract artists. And in my industry, there's no union. So, a lot of them don't only have health insurance through the companies. They have, benefits through the companies. So once that happened, a lot of people got cut. I'd say 60% or more, maybe, people that were working in
Oh.
my industry got let go across the board. a lot of companies did some big cuts, and as you guys probably know, things have not even still have not returned back to pre-strike levels. You know, a lot of studios tighten up budgets. There's not a lot of work, and
So
so there are a lot.
that's another question for you, Bilal. So
Yeah,
they obviously cut on work, cut on workers, but what about since you don't have a union and actors were able to negotiate new contracts, right? A little bit more money, not much, but a little bit more money.
yeah.
The same
I
with
mean,
you. But what about you, the special effects guys? Did you get cut or you got raised a little bit, at least a little bit?
no
Not at
way.
all,
If
not at
anything,
all.
it's harder now for people to get more pay because it's more competitive. There's
Hmm.
less work and same number of companies. And so, and a ton of people that don't have jobs. And because there are no unions and there's no contracts in place, artists can, you know, undercut each other, companies can undercut each other to try to get the work. And so that drives the price,
Down.
that drives the price of the work. And it also, you know, it drives down the wages that artists can demand or not demand that they deserve, you know, for the work based off of like everything that's going on in the economy. Everything's so expensive, you know. So for
Yeah.
people's wages to go down is actually really bad. It's just there's not there's enough work, but not enough work for the number of people that there were before. And you know, people ask me all the time, they're like, "Oh, you're a VFX supervisor. You probably don't want them to unionize, blah blah. You're getting good money and doing this, blah blah." I'm like, dude, honestly, is unionizing is good for everyone. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like if you're
protection,
really
protection.
good,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. If you're really good, you can negotiate above, you know, for yourself because you're, you know, Steven Spielberg. You know, the DGA doesn't stop Steven Spielberg from negotiating for more because he's really good. If you're really good, you can negotiate for more. But unions and stuff protect people from getting falling through, you know, when they don't have stuff or when, you know, they're trying to get like the minimum pay that they should be getting, you know.
Mm.
And so I'm all for it. I think it's just been rough, and there's definitely a lot of artists that are still looking for work in the visual effects industry, and a lot of artists that have shifted, you know, trying to see if they can go back to commercials. I know a lot of people that are doing episodic and film that were like, we're going back to commercials because commercials, you know, there's still more commercials than what was happening with the film and TV industry. So a lot of people have shifted. A lot of people have moved. I know some people that just were like, I'm not doing this anymore, you
Yeah.
know, because it was
True.
been like this for a long time, you know, and there's no union. And there's some places, some companies that started unionizing individually, some visual effects companies,
Mhm.
but that's like, you know, Sony Animation, the artists there unionized and now they're protected under a contract under Sony Animation. But
Mhm.
there are 300 out of, you know, I don't even know how many maybe a million visual effects artists that work in the United States, you know, there's like 300 of them now that are unionized in Sony, California. So
But that
it
that
doesn't
Wow.
really, you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? It doesn't really affect the whole industry. Those guys are lucky. If you're with a company that wants to take care of you, then you guys can unionize together your company. But trying to get one big union together as a visual effects industry is so hard. You know, we don't have the money, the lawyers, the 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 power, you know, whatever. So a lot of people have been trying to negotiate to get us under like IATSE or something,
Mm.
or under
Mm.
like cinema, like the cinematographers, you know, like union. But
But that reminds me what happened actually in 2008, 2010, and further with the commercial. In
mhm.
2002, almost every single commercial was under the jurisdiction of AFTRA actually, because that was
Oh,
what
okay.
had
I didn't know
television,
that.
right? And then in 2016, there was not even one commercial agency that was signature to SAG. So they
Yeah,
still make the SAG AFTRA commercials, but obviously the prices went down, and
yeah,
it was just ridiculous because you can always find somebody who will do job for 200 and 150,
exactly.
100.
Always,
Yeah,
always.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the state of it right now. It's a little bit morbid to talk about, but you
Mm.
know, it's just the climate of the industry and the climate of there being a lot of work and then it going away and people not
Mhm.
having protection. What are you going to do? You know, you either got to create your own opportunities or change industries or try to find a different market or, you know, or get a new job.
But you think
Mhm.
it could
Yeah,
change and eventually you will be unionized?
I hope so. A lot of people are fighting for it, but it's just really hard, especially for visual effects industry. We're the youngest department, you know, out of all of the, you just think about the history of filmmaking, how much more time every other department has had, you
Mm,
know, catering has had more time to negotiate than we have.
mm.
Like, I'm not even joking. Like,
Yeah,
visual
it's a good
people
point.
serving food. People are like, "Oh, how come you guys didn't do this last when you guys were first doing visual effects?" The first major film of visual effects was Jurassic Park. That wasn't that long ago.
Mm.
Like, like computer animation has not existed long enough for people to be like, "Dang, y'all should have got yourself together back in 1800." Like, what are you talking about? Like, literally, visual effects has been around since like maybe the 60s, and filmmaking has been around since or like before that, like people have been making films and it's like creating studios, and it's just we just have not had enough time. And also it's just the pace at what technology changes is hard for, you know, especially now you've been adding AI into it. It's like it's just hard to say, okay, what falls under, like rights of the visual effects industry or visual effects artists. Like what can we claim, is our work? If they give us some footage and we add to it, do we have the right? Like you have to find a lawyer that can negotiate it. Is like the robot that I create and put in there belong to me, or does it belong to the studio? Do we get some money back every time they air the film and they're using our robots in the film? Actors get residuals and stuff for their performances and their likeness. Do we say like if I do a robot and I animate it, that performance belongs to me, and so I deserve, some money for creating this thing and giving it to you to use in your film? I don't know. These are all things that need to be talked about. But I'll
Mm.
tell you one thing, studios are smart and the lawyers are really smart. And there's no way, they want that to happen.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine charging for the animation that a studio is doing for a hero character in a Marvel film? How much money that visual effects studio would be like, okay, y'all owe us, like hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, or not even hundred, like even $5 million, for all of the work and how many times it aired. And those are our creatures that we created that you're using in your film. So we deserve, some residuals. These are real conversations that should happen, but there's no way it's going to happen. And the studios are smart enough to know that if you even allow it would, there's no way. If you allow it to happen, they would lose so much money because almost not only is every single film that comes out now have some aspect of visual effects in it, all of the biggest blockbusters are almost, I would say 60 to 70% visual effects.
They based on
You
it,
know,
Hmm.
if not the
like you
special
think about
effects.
those films, how you make any of those movies without visual effects? Avatar, like the biggest films in the last, Avatar, the whole movie is visual effects.
Mm.
Come on, you can't make Avatar without visual effects. How come visual effects industry has no sway, no union, no nothing? The whole film is made in visual effects. Marvel, all those Marvel films, make one of those Marvel films without visual effects. Do it all in camera, live action.
Yeah.
It's not possible. But the visual effects industry doesn't get a lot of respect for that stuff. And I mean, I don't think it's an accident. I think they know, like there's no way if every visual effects company got together and was like, nah, find some other way to make your film unless you pay us what we owe. They
Mm.
can't do it. You can't make any of those films without it. But, you know, that's for another day.
And now,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, and now you have another treat, right? AI. So how
Yeah, and now
visual?
AI
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's the push, right? On the studio side, they probably want to try to use that as a solve, but hopefully they can, okay, maybe we can use AI to try to make some stuff on the side and try to use that. But I think for the individual artist or the individual filmmaker, it's a great tool, to use and the concept and, assist with filmmaking, the filmmaking process. For the kind of work I do, which is like high-end visual effects for films, I'm trying to hit a certain level of quality and directability, that I've played with some of the artificial intelligence stuff, and some of it is really amazing, incredible. But you just don't gain the flexibility that you still have, as an artist doing that stuff with other artists, that you can change direction quickly. But if it's something that doesn't need to be super directable, it can be a little bit more ambiguous. The tough thing about filmmaking and storytelling is that you want it to be very directable. You want to have a lot of control over it. But if you're doing stuff that's more abstract, more, almost music video-y, I think that has a place. And I think those are places where AI is probably going to move into much quickly and be able to help and assist much faster. Projects that need to move much faster, they need to be cheaper, and they should be cheaper, sure. But
where is
AI tools,
But
what'd you say?
But where is this line? Because it could be very helpful even for you at this point, right?
Yeah,
But when it becomes like very scary that actually can replace you.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever replace. I think it'll just make things more efficient. Even if the tools have become so great that they're using them to create entire landscapes or whatever, and you can use the landscape. It still needs somebody to give it some direction, and to use the tool and be like, okay, well, we need the forest to look like this.
Right.
I think it might bring down the cost of work. And I think it's already probably doing that. For me, on the level I'm working right now, we're not using it very much. And I don't know a lot of studios, honestly, in New York that are using it. Even the best studios in New York aren't using it that much. But, I think in the commercial space, I know a lot of people are using it for concept art. It's probably great for that, concepting and storyboarding. So that's pushing off a lot of that kind of work. So I think it's much more aggressive in that. But the good and bad thing about the work that we do is like, it's so complicated. You can tell AI to just, I want to see a robot walking down the street, and you like give it this information and it does that. The walk looks a little weird. You're like, okay, well, I want it to walk like a black man in 1976, in Harlem. Like, what does the AI know about that as it relates to story? It can try, but it probably is going to have a really hard time getting it that specific. And that's the level of specificity that I work on when it's like creating animations and films and stuff, and some of that stuff is intuition. Like, you're like, people come to me to work on stuff that has a lot more like Black people or Black culture in it, because I have a better sense of that stuff because I'm Black and I'm born and I live in that culture. The AI does not have that like intuition, It's the same thing with acting. Each actor brings their own kind of like spirit and character and their background to the thing. You can tell the AI to try to copy that, but it never experienced all the things that allows an actor to make this choice. It's imitating it, which is fine. I think that works to an extent. A lot of people don't know the difference between imitation and authentic performance on the visual effects standpoint, and maybe in the acting point. And so that's fine. But I think that, there's always going to be a place for like people that are really performing, people that are really creating art. And there's also going to be, as it gets better, it's going to encroach on that. But there's always going to be a place for artificial intelligence to create stuff. It just depends on what you want. It's like the difference between telling somebody that, like a steak or a hamburger, which one is better for you? Some people really fucking love amazing hamburgers, and some people want a steak. You can't tell people what they shouldn't have,
And
yeah.
Einstein said, right, at some point that the imagination is more important than knowledge. So on the AI side, we have knowledge, right? But still we cannot really replace imagination and creativity.
Yeah, it can imitate, but it's like almost asking the question, if you really think about it. That's why I always think it's funny. It's like, where does inspiration come from? Even we don't know. It's trying to imitate inspiration based off of, information that it's gathered from a bunch of disparate people, but it's only as good as the information that it can gather right now. Anyways, it's not sentient. It's not lived or experienced. The reason I connect with a film is because I'm relating to an experience that a person has had and they're also putting out. You know, imagine trying to relate to a person that's just imitating, other people's experiences. Sure, it might work, and you might be like, okay, I'm getting hindered, but I feel like while watching it, there might be times where it feels disjointed, and I think that's the thing with artificial intelligence. But as a tool, I think it's an extremely powerful tool. Replace, I don't think it'll ever happen. But if I'm wrong, it's here on the podcast.
Well,
No,
wow,
listen,
that's
we
very
all,
good.
yeah, we all hope that it's
Yeah.
not replacing us, all of us, right? Artists,
No, those
actors,
are,
all of
yeah,
the
those
people
are really
working.
good points. Especially like the examples that you use. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, how would you get that nuance down if you
Yeah.
have to just copy and paste and do it from off of that, based off of that?
Yeah.
Well,
It's just nonsense. People are always like, oh, we're just going to take our job. Like, bruh, I think I'll be all right. Yeah. Go play with your
um,
AI tool. Have fun.
so, well, then, what advice would you give um, to people who might be interested in that career path, or like interested in going in that general field of computer science in
Yeah.
entertainment?
Yeah.
What, especially if they're young, what would you say to them?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it depends on which field or medium you are. I think that's the first thing. Figure out if you like, if you like computer animation and you're interested in doing it for like filmmaking, or if you're interested in doing it like for art, because there's a difference. I know people that are in computer science and computer animation for like to work in the educational field. The cool thing about it is that it's computer animation can be used for entertainment, can be used for, like medical research, architectural design. You could use it in design world. It's very, very, there's just varying disciplines within the world or the medium of computer animation that you can choose. So first choose a lane, and I know specifically more about how to use it and how to work in the field of entertainment. But if you're interested in education, that's another aspect. And that I would say you probably want to stay on like an educational path. And that's a path where, there probably is not as much competition, to be honest. You're probably not going to get paid as much, but you can go down an educational path. And if you want to do it for an artistic path, I have friends that are in the computer animation and they use the same tools as me. One works as an educator, one works as a like pure artist, like creating abstract art using computer animation, not commercial for film or TV, but commercial within the art space, right? And I'm talking about art like paintings, digital art in that way, not for like filmmaking to be told in story. And then there's entertainment, filmmaking industry commercials. I think of that as like filmmaking TV commercials. And that's the space I work in. And if you are interested in that space, I think some of the best things you can do is just watch a lot of movies at first, try to create love and language with filmmaking and storytelling, and then try to see if, honestly, try to make a film if you could also, but then also try to see if you could spend some time learning how to do some of these effects that you see. That's how I started. I would try, and a lot of people might get upset about this, but I don't think you need to go to school for what I do. I went to school for it. I spent a lot of money, but there are some incredible courses online. You could spend a tenth of the amount of money you would spend at school and you can learn. And I would do that. I'd probably not go to school if it was me. I'd start with YouTube tutorials, save up some money, and then I'd find an amazing course, whatever the best course is that you want to do. And if it wants to be like, I want to work at Pixar, find a course where you learn how to do high-end Pixar animation. If you want to do live action visual effects, kind of the world I do, find a course that teaches you how to do that. Learn the tools really, really well and create an amazing portfolio piece and share that. And I really urge you, especially if it's in the entertainment world, make story like the core and heart of that piece, because I work in visual effects. I hire artists all the time. And the one thing I always feel is the hardest thing to find in a lot of artists is sometimes a lot of them are technically good, artists, technically sound, but they don't know how to cater to the story while they're using their skills as a visual effects artist. You can be just a technician, but the thing about it in this industry and a lot of the entertainment industry is that, people at their best understand story and they understand where visual effects or computer animation lives within that story. You're always telling stories. And so even, for example, like when I do shows like power shows where there's muzzle flashes, you'd never think there's a story behind muzzle flashes, but depending on the scene, depending on the performance of the actor, I'll use a different muzzle flash and I'll have the muzzle flash interact lighting wise with the space differently. If like the main character is about to kill, like the hero villain, I will do like a big muzzle flash and I'll do like a really cool interactive lighting glow that lights up the actor's face as he's killing the other person. If it's just a couple guys in the street shooting at each other, I'll dull it down because I don't want that to distract from the moment or what the action that's happening in the scene. There's no reason for every shot to be a big, beautiful, bright muzzle flash with a glow. It can be smaller, more subtle, so it's not distracting from the story. And this is the thing I think a lot of people don't think when they're doing their effects. They're just like, slap it on. Yeah, that's the muzzle flash. It's like, look at it, think about what's happening in the scene and like, should that muzzle flash, why did I make that muzzle flash that big? Why is it that bright? Should I have this amount of smoke after the muzzle flash disappears? And this is just a muzzle flash. So this is how I usually think about every little effect I'm doing because it affects the story. And so if someone came to me talking to me about visual effects in this way, I'd be like, you're hired, because then I can get you to become good at using the effect or the tool. But it's hard to get people to think about these kinds of things when they're doing the effects, which is like the most important thing about what I do is that I'm a storyteller and I happen to know how to use visual effects, So yeah, that's what I would say. Learn the tools. You don't have to go to school. I hope I don't get in trouble. Don't go to school, kids. You don't have to go to school. Learn the tool, become really good at it. Imitate people that make really, really great art. Find the best course you can find online, learn that, and then learn how to use visual effects, to tell a great story and be able to explain and describe that. I would say that would be the path right now, just especially with how expensive school and stuff is. It's like, That's what I would do. If someone asked me, what would I do? That's what I would do if I was getting started.
Besides, it's something wrong with this education system here, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's broken too. Yeah. There's no reason it should be that expensive. Art school costs more than some of these private schools.
I swear.
It's crazy.
I know. Insane. And they know exactly where you're going to be going, the industry that you're going into.
It should be criminal. It should be criminal. They know as soon as you finish, like you're not going to be you're not a lawyer. You're not going to become a doctor. And they should say, in the beginning, 70% of y'all probably not going to make a lot of money. Imagine if they were honest about it. I'm like, of my whole department, when I graduated right now, I think it was like a department of like 30 or 40 kids. Maybe 5 of us are doing this still. 5 of us out of 40 kids went for computer animation. Most of the other kids that were not doing anything close, maybe like similar adjacent, but I'm one of the few people I know that's doing it and also doing it on a high level, getting paid that I can have a living and et cetera, et cetera. Super lucky.
Gems that you just dropped.
But don't give up on it. If you really love it, the reason I am where I am is because I became really obsessed with it. You got to really like it. If you don't really like it and you're not really into it, you don't like stories and films, you don't want to push yourself you're never going to become great at it or good. I know a lot of people that do it because they just want to say they're artists or they work in computer animation or they have a fond like for it. You got to realize that it's a lot of work to become good at anything. And you have to get to the point where you enjoy the work. I would not be working 15-hour days if I didn't really like what I do. And if I did, I'm probably a psychopath. but like
But
maybe I am a psychopath. I mean, maybe it's both, but like truth is, I really, really enjoy what I'm doing, and I work really hard at it, and that's the only way to become good at anything, honestly. But especially in this industry where you don't get paid a lot, where you're starting for a long time, so you got to be ready to like grind, you know.
Yeah, I think what happened in whole our industry, there's so many people who are here for the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons.
And
Yeah, for the
there's
wrong
like
reasons.
they never will be happy because they will
Yeah,
they won't be famous anyway, and they
yeah,
will not making money anyway. So
yeah.
it's either way.
Might as
So
well do TikTok videos or something, or
yeah,
be a YouTuber. You probably have a better chance, honestly.
I know, make more money.
Yeah, make more money. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
What about your future? Let's talk about your future.
Oh, future. Oh, um, yeah. I
What's
mean,
it
I could
looking?
talk about stuff that I'm doing right now. Maybe that's what this is like. You know, for me right now, I'm working on the Terror. That I'm really excited about that project. The showrunners are great. I'm working with the showrunners and the writers. They're awesome. Uh, yeah, Chris and Victor, amazing, like showrunner duo right now that I'm working with. The content, the stories that they put together, the scripts they put together are incredible, and bringing them to life has been so much fun, so collaborative. And so that's my big project right now, work wise, that I'm really excited about. On the side, you know, I'm like a judge for many like couple conferences. One is SIGGRAPH Asia, which is going to be happening in December. It's a
Mhm.
computer animation conference, and I'm one of the judges for the Computer Animation Festival. So that's exciting. We're getting to watch a bunch of awesome animated shorts, and we're judging them and reviewing them. It's beautiful to see all these stories. There's like a student animation category, which is awesome to see some incredible student animated films. And then on the side, I'm also a grand jury member for another film festival in Reno. That's happening end of September. So that one's coming up soon. Got like 8, 9 hours of films I have to watch over the weekend. So I have to do that. But that's coming up. Cordillera, that's in Reno. I was a grand jury member last year, and that was really fun. And I really enjoyed the film festival. I'm going to be doing that in September. And then outside of that, you know, we're going to get a little break in December. I'm not really working on anything outside of traveling. I'm hopefully in the end of December, I want to go to Japan, do that, and just take a break and then come back.
And hopefully January will bring more and more work for everybody, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope
Episodes,
so.
films, yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Bilali. This has been like an amazing episode. You really did go into the details, as you said that you do for your work. You laid it out for us very well.
And
If
really
anyone wanted to,
yeah,
yes.
they really appreciate
Yeah.
your point of view and say as it is, right? Not
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to be open here.
Yeah.
So, if you know people wanted to check out your work, if people wanted to follow up, where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you want to check out my website, I've got a website, bilalimack.com. If you go there, you can see a lot of the projects that I've worked on. I've also got some VFX breakdowns of like some commercials and films that I've worked on. And then .com. And then my Instagram is Panda Paw Pics. You know, Panda Paw Pics. I'm into street photography and like travel photography. I do a lot of film photography, so I'm on there if you want to check out my work. And then I'm on LinkedIn as Bilali Mack. If you guys have any questions or anything, or people want to reach out, I think that's probably the best. Or you could email bilalimack@gmail.com. Same thing. I don't care. Yeah. I might not be able to get to it. I might not be able to get to all of it, but I don't care. Here, I'm going to post it here real quick.
Wow, guys, he's a real one, everybody.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm not giving out my phone number though.
It's okay.
No.
You've already given out way more than half our other guests.
That's fine. I don't care.
Thank you so
I don't
much.
care. I work in visual effects. What are you gonna try to get from me? Oh, can I get a job doing some visual effects? No, nobody's getting jobs right now.
So
Yeah.
listen, we wish you all the best, a lot of amazing projects, and
Yeah.
hopefully it will get, people together and, create some kind of union or whatever association, whatever
Yeah.
it is,
I hope
Yeah,
so.
to help you
yeah,
Yeah.
fighting for
Unions are
this.
good.
Yeah,
Unions are good.
yeah.
yeah. I had no clue. Like a lot of people don't even think about
I
that.
know.
And so that's
Neither do I.
good that you
Yeah.
I
brought
know
it up.
about that. Yeah.
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 Nobody knows. That's why there's no union.
Well, hopefully people know now. Let's get it out there, everybody. Let's get it out there. VFX Union
Yeah.
2025. But okay, thank you so much.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really
All right.
appreciate that. Thank
I
You
you.
wish
guys
you a
enjoy your
great rest of your
weekend.
Yeah,
season.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you guys around.
yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for that wonderful talk with Bilali Mack in VFX. We really hope that you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so that you
don't miss anything, and we will see you next week.
exactly.